African American community had been fighting for civil rights since the time Jim Crow began in about the 1890s. And it had been a losing battle pretty regularly. Occasionally some good things happened, like when they saved the Scottsboro boys from the electric chair for a rape they did not commit, 8 of them or so. But it was pretty much a losing battle. But after the war, the very fact that we had fought Nazi Germany and the grounds on which we had fought it, and what the Nazis had been doing, this caused a sea change in the conversation. When the camps were discovered, Eisenhower, who was a much brighter guy than a lot of people have given him credit for, I think, said, well, our men, it has been said, our men do not know what they are fighting for. Now they know what they have been fighting against. So things changed because of the war.
Well, there were executive orders during the war that, for the first time, integrated aspects of the service. In 1946, Truman appointed a commission, and that commission produced a report. And the report itself generated the thought that more could be done about civil rights. And Phil was very interested in the report, and there were recommendations for extending civil rights protection that were in the report. Phil met a lawyer named Phineas Indritz in the Department of Interior. And the two of them...
One of the little
unsung hero,
figures of history.
Unsung hero of the civil rights movement. Later, I think he played a role in the women's movement. And he was in the Bureau of Mines, but Phil and he basically cooked up the idea that they would generate a flood of letters from organizations around the country, civil rights groups and others, asking the Justice Department to take up and join the move against discrimination.
He's a master PR guy.
Yeah. Indritz knew the Secretary of Interior, Oscar Chapman, and was trying to get discrimination among the Indians addressed. Chapman wrote to the Attorney General asking the Attorney General to file an amicus brief in those cases. And Indritz drafted the letter and Chapman signed it. And then the letter came over to the Department of Justice, where it ends up on the desk of Phil Elman. And
surprise.
Right. And this is before there's a civil rights division. And there had been a civil rights section in the criminal division, which had worked on involuntary servitude issues and voting rights issues. So Phil, at that point, has friends in the NAACP. He's got friends in the American Civil Liberties Union. He's got friends in the American Jewish Congress. He's got friends in a lot of different organizations. And he gets them all to write letters to the President and letters to the Attorney General, urging the government to intervene in the Supreme Court. And those letters wind up on the desk of Phil Elman. He gets the State Department to write a letter to the Attorney General expressing concern about discrimination in the United States and the impact on foreign policy. Incidentally, there's a woman, a fine scholar at UCLA, Mary Dudziak, who has taken this and run with it and written a lot of interesting work about the civil rights movement as a Cold War imperative.
I can remember it being raised when Kennedy was president.
Yeah. So, I think there is a lot of strength in the argument that we look bad overseas in countries we cared about because we had a society that...
You know a funny but true story?
That was segregated.
After the war was over, they asked some people in a small English town what they thought about those American boys, the soldiers who'd been quartered among them, and they said, oh, they were wonderful. And some of those white boys were okay too.
This is near Truman's re-election, or election, I should say. He's not doing very well in the polls, and they're politically minded, and they're thinking about the vote. Suddenly, there is an impulse in the Justice Department to do something about civil rights.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, a leader of reform in legal education and a leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.